Welcome to the Power of Purpose Live, March 16th, 2014, from the David Brower Center in Berkeley, California. Sponsored by the Mankind Project USA. Visit us online at mkpusa.org.
Jenny is the founder of the Movement Blueprint, a strategic system designed to scale your method into a movement. She works with cultural innovators, thought pioneers, visionary entrepreneurs, and passionate leaders to help their message reach thousands of people to create positive change. As the co-founder of Acro Yoga, Jenny has successfully developed a thriving international brand, community, and organization from scratch. This movement, now with hundreds of thousands of practitioners on 6 continents, has been deemed a global phenomenon by Yoga Journal magazine. She is a regular presenter at events such as Yoga Journal Live, Wanderlust, Wisdom 2.0, and Asia Yoga Conference, as well as at esteemed venues such as Esalen, Omega, and Kripalu. Her work has been featured in publications such as the New York Times, Yoga Journal, Newsweek, Shape, and Elle. And so Jenny, I've actually, part of my passion is dance. I like to do dance, 5 rhythms dance, and other forms of dance, ecstatic dance. And for a while there, every Sunday I'd go to this dance in Oakland called ecstatic dance. And part of what people would be doing there as part of the dance, in parts of the room would actually be doing acro yoga. And they would be doing all these postures and all that. And I would ask somebody, what are you doing? Because I didn't know it. When I went there, I was like, what is this? You know, you're putting them, they're on the floor and they're putting people up on their legs and flying them all around, and somebody's up like this. And they said, well, it's acro yoga. And I said, wow, that's very interesting. And so when I learned that she was at Wisdom 2.0, I realized that Jenny was the founder of acro yoga. And for me, what it shows is that it's amazing how her passion, like my own passion for dance, this acro yoga thing, that she was able to translate that passion for acro yoga into this global movement. And I was so impressed when I read more about how many teachers are out there, how global acro yoga is. And so it's very exciting for me to have Jenny here as a part of our Power of Purpose Summit. And we're going to put a little photo up here a second and see here. You go to her photo. Look at that. Oh, let's do an aw. Look at that. Is that a missing tooth?
Yes.
So it's got a big gap right there. So again, the imagination of the child and the passion that it brings. And Jenny, so welcome and great to have you at the Power of Purpose Summit.
Thank you.
Yay.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah. That's such a great story. I love hearing people's first experience of like, what is that? Acro yoga. So the talk today is really about how to start a global movement. So it's just a very simple process. You'll do it tomorrow. It'll be complete by the time you leave this room. So it's kind of like a daunting topic. However, my intention in being with you today is not just to tell you how I started a global movement or how one starts a global movement, but how each person in this room, meaning all of you and all of you out there on the telesummit, can really see yourselves as the potential leaders of a global movement. I did not think I was going to be ever calling myself that. It was not my intention initially. I really just followed what was in my heart. And I remember my dad saying to me, what are you doing with this? Teaching circus arts and doing massage and yoga. Where is it leading to? And I was like, you know, Dad, I don't know where it's going, but I know I'm really happy. I know I'm doing what is in my heart. And when I met Jason, who's the co-founder of Acro Yoga, and I'll share about that a little bit more soon, it all made sense. And I was like, oh, this is when it comes together. So it was really just following the intuition of what was working for me and what felt really good. And then the form kind of took shape and got handed to me on a silver platter. So I'm going to send you guys the slides to this if you want the talk at howtostartaglobalmovement.com. You can put your email in and you get them. So that'll be nice. So what is a movement? When we talk about this movement thing, what's going on? And I'm so glad to be going right after David because it was such an awesome transition. So you guys did a great job in the lineup with that. Thank you. So what is a movement? So here's your typical dictionary definition: a group of people working together to advance their shared political, social, or artistic ideas. And I would like to put forth an alternate definition that is really a social entrepreneurial definition, which is considering we are in a capital mainframe, how do we advance society towards a positive change? So how about this definition? A values-driven business whose primary objective is to create positive cultural change through a shared practice or experience. And for me, with acro yoga, that shared practice or experience is really important because it's not about a product. It's not about a thing we have. It's something that we do. It's something we engage in. It's a way that we connect to each other in a meaningful way. And I think that's essentially really what life is all about. And when I graduated college, I was a theater major. And I was in this transition of like, what do I do with my life? Oh my God, like just this huge chasm of the unknown. And I made a couple key decisions in that moment. And one of them was that I wanted my life to be about experiences, not things. And I used that criteria at every juncture in my life to evaluate, was this in my path? And so I've dedicated my life to be about cultivating human experience. Which leads me to the more poetic version of what I think a movement really is, by Rumi, which is let the drop of water that is you become 100 mighty seas. So it's really, how do you take your passion, your purpose, your meaning, how do you share that vision with people so powerfully that they're inspired and engaged to join you and possibly commit their life's purpose to that end goal? So how did I get up here on this stage talking to you about acro yoga and leading global movements? Well, it started from very humble beginnings. Yes, that is me with dreadlocks early on. So this is about 10 years ago in San Francisco. I met Jason Niemer, who's the co-founder of Acro Yoga, with me. And we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have a lot of experience. We had really never started our own businesses, certainly had not started a global movement before. What we did have was passion, dedication, determination, like serious determination, and very, very big vision. So our office was Dolores Park in San Francisco. If you've ever been there, that was like where all the magic happened when we first started. So any of you guys heard of acro yoga before? Show of hands. Or you just heard about it right now? Awesome. So, great. So acro yoga is a combination of yoga, acrobatics, and Thai massage that cultivates trust, connection, and community, and playfulness too, big time playfulness. So the practice, I've had the huge honor of having traveled the world to share this practice with tens of thousands of students. We've certified 400 to 500 teachers around the world, and there are now hundreds of thousands of people practicing acro yoga on 6 continents. So it's been a massive, massive journey, one that I never necessarily expected to be at the helm of, but I'll tell you, it is a wild sensation to all of a sudden turn around and feel like there's actually hundreds of thousands of people watching what you're doing and caring and being engaged with something that you set into motion. So it's been incredibly huge growth and learning experience that continues to this day. And a couple of years ago, I started going through this heart-wrenching process of feeling like maybe acro yoga wasn't what I was going to be doing for the rest of my life. And that was like astounding because it was what I always thought I was going to do forever. It was my family, it was my community, it was my career, it was my purpose. It was like what I dedicated my entire life to, literally like 24/7 for many, many years. And in that process of letting go, it was like stepping out of a cage of my own making and not knowing what was on the outside of that world. And it was terrifying. And in that process, I was just talking with Tim Kelly, who's coming up next, which is so perfect because it was literally that dark night of the soul. And my boyfriend, who's in the audience, will tell you all of the like, tearful nights I had around the devastation of not knowing my purpose. After I had been so on purpose for so long and generated such beauty in the world. And I was like, oh my God, like that child star, they're like, maybe that was it. Like maybe that was the big gift I had to offer. What could I possibly do after that? And so what came after that, which is what I'm talking to you guys about today, is the movement blueprint, which was really coming from this, looking back on how did we create this movement with acro yoga? And how can I systemize it and codify it so that I can give that system to people like you to use as a model. Oops, switching that one. So the movement blueprint is a step-by-step strategic system designed to take you from the inception of your method to its profound and scalable impact, as Chris so eloquently stated in the intro. So there's 5 steps in this movement blueprint. The first one is knowing your value. So important. And we're going to spend most of our time there today. The second one is clarifying your message. How do you communicate what it is that you're most passionate about in a way that engages and inspires people into action? The third is mastering your model. So figuring out what your system is, how you deliver it, what's the sustainable business model that's going to be profitable but focus on the benefit. Number 4, create your training program. So how do you create human ambassadors that will go out and be representations of your work and get more people involved? And number 5 is impacting the world. So this is where we can utilize things like social media and the internet and speaking engagements, conferences, ways that we can make our movement easy to find and join for anybody around the world. So step 1, this big question that we often start with, this is like the human question. Who am I? Who am I to be a global leader? And it took me a while to even be able to step into this place of being able to talk to you about that. I had teachers, I was in a business program last year, and from the very beginning they said to me, you know, I think that your highest leverage gift is to help people create movements. And I was like, what? I was like, me? First of all, I wasn't at that point yet able to stand and that's what I had actually done. And I also was like, I have no idea how I'm going to teach anybody how to do that. It just happened. I don't know. And so it took me 6 months of really sitting with it and chewing on it to say, wow, I guess that is really what happened. And there are no accidents. And being in the inquiry of how might I teach that to someone else, the information has come through. So it's really being in, there's a line of like humility that's really useful. And then there's a line of confidence and empowerment to really step into your value and your gift. That is being of the greatest service to others. So today, I pose this first question to you for your own consideration. How have you transformed one of your most significant challenges in life into one of your greatest gifts? And this is, I think, similar to what David was referring to in the sense of, you know, to be present, we have to come to peace with our past. We have to be able to own what's happened to us, not only own it, but transmute it. To say whatever has happened to me, I called into my life for a reason. And similar to what Ashanti was saying, like, this was the gift that I was given. This is what you get in life, so what are you going to make of it? This is where the empowerment comes in of being able to transform obstacles into opportunities, and every great leader must own that power. So just thinking for yourself, how have you transformed an obstacle into an opportunity? And oftentimes you'll find like someone who was the health coach is someone who was chronically ill as a child, or someone who's a great chef was on food stamps their whole childhood and had a lot of hunger. So it's the ways in which we take the hard things and create beauty out of it. So for myself, I was raised in New York City as an only child in a small apartment, and I spent a lot of time alone, a lot of time with adults and babysitters, with my parents who are amazing people. And I still had this feeling of like yearning for more. I wanted more connection, more community. And so now when I look at acro yoga and what was born there, it's like, oh yeah, well that's the medicine. Was I created for myself a place to belong, a global family of playmates and people that I could call my own. And I oftentimes have people come up to me and they say, wow, thank you for acro yoga. It changed my life. I have people that I can call my family, and I feel like I belong. So it's like their healing is my healing, and my healing is their healing. So that's the beauty we create in the world from the wounds that we suffer. Secondly, we go to this more universal perspective. So that first question is really like, what's my personal past? And then we have to come out of that. So it's kind of like bobbling up to the top of the water and getting a lay of the land and saying, okay, from this universal cultural perspective, what's going on here? And how do I combine these two elements of my personal with the universal? So in the universal, we're looking at what cultural norm, current cultural norm, do you want to make absurd? And we're going to be sharing this with someone near you. So be thinking about what this is for you. So what is the thing that like just drives you crazy? And this is a good way to actually funnel your dissatisfaction with the way that things are, because that's part of the change maker in you that is alive and well. So looking at what is culturally not acceptable to you that most people think is acceptable. Then the second piece is looking at, well, what future cultural norm do you want to establish in its place? So how are you going to flip that? So it's cool and good to look at what you don't like only in service of what you do want. And then your job is, instead of straddling both worlds, what I don't want, what I do want, what I don't want, what I do want, which is a contradictory vibration, it's starting from what you do want and then putting both feet into what you do want and leading that. That's where the movement begins, is saying, come with me and we're going to create a world like this. So, as an example, in my experience, the current cultural norm that drives me crazy is that we're so digitally and virtually connected and so disconnected in real life, right? Like, how many people would like a more sense of community than they have right now? Yeah, awesome. So for me, that also goes around touch. Like, if a baby doesn't get touched, it dies. Touch is not a privilege, it's a right. It's something we all need. We all need a hug every day. So in my future vision, in the cultural norm I'd like to establish, is that we all feel that we belong in the human family and that we all have that sense of touch and connection that we so deeply yearn for every day. So I'm going to ask you now to turn to someone near you. Could be groups, ideally it's groups of 2, and I'm going to give you a little timer with the bells when you want to switch partners. And each person, you're going to get on your soapbox and you're going to go on a rampage for 1 minute of what you think is totally absurd and how you're going to change it. So you're going to answer both questions in 1 round. And then I'll ring the bell and that'll give you the sense of, okay, changing partners. And you're going to have only 1 minute, which means you've got to be really succinct and concise. And this is a great question to consider in terms of, what are you doing professionally in the world? Like, how is this part of your purpose that you're expressing through what you dedicate your life to in a day-to-day level? Okay, are you guys ready? Yep. All right, so 1 minute each. I'm going to give you the bell in between. Find somebody near you. Oh, sure. Yay. So transitioning to your second partner, if you haven't. Second partner. It's actually okay. Yeah, thank you though for remembering. right, so finishing your thoughts. All right, so I am curious to hear from the future global leaders in the room. What revolutions are you starting? Popcorn, anybody like, this is the future cultural norm. What are you guys going to establish?
Healthy work-life balance.
Awesome, healthy work-life balance. Yeah, Tim.
Make absurd that work is a necessary evil,
Mm-hmm.
and in its place, that work is one of the best means available for manifesting one's purpose.
Awesome. Work is one of the best means available for revealing life's purpose. Awesome.
Make absurd the concept that animals and the well-being of the earth are tangential to human well-being.
Awesome. Yeah. So the importance of human animal life in the world. Yeah.
Stopping a culture of ignorance and miseducation.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you. Yes.
I want to make it absurd to think that psychological, personal, and emotional work is something that shows weakness.
Beautiful. Nice. Let's take one or two more. Yeah.
I'm going to create block dinners, meaning people who live on the same block get together once a month to get to know each other more. And
Awesome. Yay. Neighborhood block dinners. Was there one over here or over here? Yeah. Marcy. Happiness is the norm. Beautiful. Awesome. So it's so exciting. It's inspiring. It's beautiful to talk about this future world we envision, which is making that old model obsolete, making something better that people want to be engaged with, right? So awesome. Really happy to hear all of that. So the idea with the movement blueprint, again, is to have these 5 steps, like a system that you can walk where, you know, creating a movement is a big daunting thing, and like how many people have walked that path. So it's there to give you that interactive roadmap. And then there's another part to like, there's your structure, but beyond the structure, how are you going to breathe life into that structure? And you breathe life into that structure through your leadership, through the essence of who you are. So my philosophy is that as a teacher or as a leader, your greatest teaching is just who you are. And people feel you in an instant because we're actually incredibly intelligent people. So you know a lot about me already in the 15 minutes I've been here that I'm not necessarily intending to broadcast, but you're receiving from me because you're wise beings. So I wanted to talk a little bit before we close about the leadership of a movement and what it is to stand at the helm of something of that magnitude. So the first piece for me that's really clear is as its leader, you're actually its greatest servant. So you want to be looking and asking yourself this question, am I serving the movement or is the movement serving me? And that will always keep you in alignment with your integrity. When you start to feel like, oh, the movement is serving me, that's when you need to step back. And oftentimes what I find is when people find out I'm the co-founder of Acro Yoga, they're like, oh, I didn't even know Acro Yoga had founders. And I'm like, great. Yes, we did a good job. And that was the intention, was to put Acro Yoga here, and we put ourselves here. You know, we are helping it to come through. It's like letting it come through, but it's not lifting you up, you're lifting it up. And in turn, it supports you. Secondly, if you know how to listen, it will teach you everything you need to know. So again, it's not something you're going to have all the answers to from the beginning. And even as you go, it's an incredibly humbling process to be supporting many, many people around the world to join in a vision together. So every year, Jason and I used to go on these massive world tours, so like 5 or 6 months, a new city every weekend kind of thing. It was crazy. And, you know, each year when we look at our tour schedule and say, where should we go right now? You know, I could have said, hey, Tahiti sounds awesome. Let's go hang out there for a couple months. But that wouldn't have been serving the practice, the community. So we would look around and say, where do we need to be? Where are the communities popping? Who really needs us right now? And that's how we'd make our tour schedule year after year. So it's not something I could have pre-planned. It's something I had to sit and we had to listen and feel. So it's like riding the most insanely epic wave ever. And at each moment, it could go any direction, and you just don't know. So I also have to say I feel really grateful to have had a co-founder because I would not wanted to have done that alone. I mean, just, wow. I'm impressed with people who do. So here's another one, always take the high road. So like in anything, there's always going to be opportunities to take shortcuts to get there faster, cheaper. It's almost never, ever worth it. Especially when you're starting a movement or something that you want to be big and long and touch many people every decision you make is the foundation for the next decision. So you want to be thinking about, with this decision, what is this going to look like 5, 10, 20, 100 years down the line when there's 500, 50,000, 500,000, a million people participating in this? What's that going to look like? You've got to be asking yourself those questions, because the greater of integrity you have at the bottom foundational layer, the greater integrity it has forever and ever. So everything matters. And then this delicate balance of holding on and letting go, right? The idea of a movement is that each person who's participating is a leader. Actually, every person who is involved is contributing. They're not passive, they're really active in that. So you have to start to give it away and say, wow, I generated this thing and it came through me, but my ultimate goal is to delegate and empower all of these roles to other people so they can take it and run. That's the only way it's going to be viral. It's the only way you're going to reach a ton of people, is to actually let it go and have its own life beyond you. And that can be a real ego death of like, oh, it's not me, although it came through me, but it's about something bigger, and to really let people take it and run with it. So in our process of growing Acro Yoga, eventually we trained people to lead our 5-day immersion programs. Eventually we trained people to lead the teacher trainings, which is a huge, for me, huge letting go. So you always are looking at like, okay, how can I empower other people to do this for themselves? And lastly, do your inner work to keep up with who the movement is asking you to become. There is no greater spiritual growth opportunity I've ever had than being the head of Acro Yoga for 10 years. I think if any of you guys are parents, if anybody's parents in here, yeah, you probably have a similar experience, because raising a child and a movement are actually very similar. As far as I understand, I'm not a parent yet, but as far as I understand from my experience of being a daughter, you know, you don't raise a child to enslave it and to control it. You raise a child so that it can be free and independent in the world and have its own life, although you instill it with your essence and your values. Raising a movement is the same thing. And it's a really moment-by-moment process that, if you are available to it, will, yeah, teach you way more than you could have ever imagined. Super beautiful, I feel so blessed. So we come to the end. So again, if you want these slides, you can go to howtostartaglobalmovement.com, and I put more detail in there so you can remember more of what's going on. I'd love to support you and see all of you guys in stepping forward in your magnificent purpose in the world, and igniting and engaging and inspiring people to join you in that purpose. So let the drop that is you become 100 mighty seas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Woo!
Thank you for listening to the Power of Purpose Summit. To hear more great content, visit powerofpurposesummit.com. Sponsored by the Mankind Project USA.